This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to episode 103 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg, and probably one of the spookiest people that you've ever met. Jeanette, aka I Give Candy to the Entire World Leads, is here to join us. And great to see you, Jeanette.
Great to see you too. Well, really excited for our almost Halloween episode. As I said, I'm Jeanette Leeds. We have and getting ready to probably welcome, not even joking, over 600, maybe 700 trick-or-treaters to my house tomorrow. Seriously. And today we're going to talk about the spookiest, most exciting topic is agentic AI and how it promises to revolutionize high volume hiring. And I'm really excited because today we have Prakhar Agrawal here. He's the CEO and co-founder of SenseLoaf. Full just disclosure, I also am an advisor to Prakhar. As everyone I think knows, I do a bunch of HR tech advising. So Prakhar, welcome. So happy to have you here. Welcome to the High Volume Hiring Podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jeanette. I'm super excited to be here. And yes, it's crazy. You're going to have 600 people for
no joke.
Halloween. That's like high volume recruiting, right? That you probably need some agentic.
It is high volume trick-or-treating. We're going to do a whole episode on that, how to handle. So, awesome. Well, why don't we kick it off and just give everyone who doesn't know about SenseLoaf, what is SenseLoaf? Give us a quick background, who you are. Well, we know CEO and co-founder, but just give us some background and then we'll dive into the agentic AI spookiness.
No, absolutely. So SenseLoaf is also an AI company solving core issues with talent acquisition. The difference is we have been doing this for now 6 years, and we see AI as an enabler. So for us, we started from the problem, right? Instead of pushing a product to companies, so this is how you do it. But we actually try to learn what are the problems that different TA teams go through. And then we see what kind of AI is needed to solve that. So that has allowed us to do the evolution from NLP, ML, AI, now to agentic AI. So there we are. So for us, it's an enabler to solve the core issues with TA rather than saying oh, this is how we should do it. And this is how the problem is, and you should go about it.
So for the listeners that aren't familiar or aren't real sure what the difference is between machine learning, AI, LLMs, agentic AI, give us a bit of a primer. What makes something agentic in terms of AI?
So I think the fundamental difference is that all of these NLP, ML, all of these classic AI models, they require a context, right? They work within human guidance, supervision. Agentic AI is more autonomous. So it has the ability to make certain decisions autonomously where you don't need 100% human oversight. So that is the fundamental difference. Is autonomy is the keyword I would use is when it comes to agentic AI.
And so give everyone an example of what decision, because I know there's some people, and I'm thinking about those who are maybe in compliance roles and whatnot, where they're oh my God, something's making a decision, that's super scary. But to me, obviously that doesn't need to be spooky, scary Halloween. What's sort of a decision, or I would say a low risk decision that,
So a classic ML, right? We'll take a chatbot, right? In high volume, we use it all the time. So for example, it gets stuck because it has 6, 7 questions that, it's supposed to ask every candidate. But a candidate could be I don't really want to say what my email is, right? Because then that chatbot will be stuck. But when it comes to agentic AI, if the candidate says I don't really want to answer that, it can adapt and make a decision if the candidate is good enough. Can it notify the recruiter? Can it tell them, oh, we have Jeanette, she's awesome, but she doesn't want to share her email or phone number, whatever, but I think you should talk to her. So smaller decisions with human oversight, like is needed in that. But that's, I think, is a classic case, especially when it comes to recruitment, one use case of agentic. And as you said about compliance, I 100% agree with that, right? Like, because we always, I think, from the last 10 years, we have been worried about it, right? Like, oh, it's going to take our jobs. It's going to, like, do make decisions. And we have seen hundreds of lawsuits, right? But that's where that human in the loop is very important when it's come to agentic AI, because that's where it makes a difference. Like, there's always a human in the loop that is giving directions. So think of it as like an intern, like a smart intern that's working 24/7. And you have given that system clear instructions or a framework around which it can or cannot make decisions.
Hey, we're the payroll baddies, and our mission is to make payroll fun and relatable.
And call out industry when we hear it.
You gotta call it out. You gotta call it like you see it. But we also gotta shine a light on all those unsung payroll heroes out there, making sure we get paid.
Yeah, those are the real payroll baddies out there, and we love sharing their stories and showing them love.
With gold chain and everything, baby.
By the way, SAP is the best payroll out there, and if you don't like it,
Get
So that's a really great analogy because I'm envisioning back when I was young doing basically an internship and my boss could kind of give me like an overview. This is what I want. These are the issues I expect to encounter, but it would have been ridiculous for this one boss that I'm thinking of to tell me every little thing. If you encounter this, then do this, and you before you know it, you've got this ridiculously massive decision tree. By the time he communicated that to me, he might as well just have done the work. So I think what you're saying with agentic is it's kind of like how my boss would talk to me. These are the general issues. These are the guidelines, values, whatever. You're going to encounter things we haven't discussed. Fill in those details. Um, how does the agent how does the agent know to do that? Because it's one thing if for a person, I get that, but how's the tech know to do that?
That's an excellent question, Stephen. Again, it comes back to the framework. So agentic AI is built on LLMs, right? So it is trained on historical data, massive data. It has like seen what kind of factors that you take care of. So that's where I think systems can adjust the kind of autonomy that you can give to an agent, right? Like, so if it's within a simple use case where you have explicitly said it, do not reject a candidate, right? No matter what. But can you then notify, right? Like going back to the example your boss gave you, right? Like you cannot map the entire decision tree, but okay, right? Like, I mean, it's a small impact decision which I can take on my own as compared to outrightly saying to a candidate, sorry, bro, like it's done, right? So that differentiation needs to be very clear, because if not, that's actually one of the issues in agentic systems that companies are trying to work on is over automation, right? Like, it is actually a huge problem, or a potential problem. Over automation is where if you don't provide the right oversight, you're free to go. It's like an intern that's like, oh, I didn't have clear instructions. So I'm just going to go ahead and like put this into production, and it's going to collapse the whole system, right? So that's where the human role is becoming more important, which not a lot of people are realizing, is that it's more of a collaboration. And one analogy I can give is, it's think about like a pilot and an autopilot, like flying a plane, right? You'll always use autopilot when you're cruising, but you're not going to let the autopilot land the plane. So that's, I think, an analogy which I think is good in this example.
I love that. That is such a perfect analogy. And again, it's not so scary, right? We need that human oversight. It's okay. I want to go back to one of the points you made at the very beginning, like when you started Senslow, right? Which was the idea of what is a problem that you're trying to solve versus like, oh, let's just go off and do this. So maybe you could talk a bit about like one of those problems, but obviously tie it to high volume, since we're on the high volume podcast. And I know a lot of like customers that you work with, it's all high volume because that's, I feel like, such a great use case. But maybe let's tie back to one of those to bring it to life of how agentic AI promises to revolutionize, like what you revolutionize.
So going back in time a little bit, it started because, as a candidate, right? Like 10 years ago, I was doing thousands of applications. So does all of the people I knew were doing thousands of applications, and you never hear back, right? So the question was like, why, right? Like, why is it happening? I used to hate recruiters, like when it started. But then
And
it's
you
true
met
though, right?
them and you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh, they're actually cool.
yeah, they're doing the best they can.
It's fair to generalize. If you've had 10, 20, 30 bad experiences, that you start to think that everybody's like that.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, you have to enter the battlefield from one side or the other, right? So that's how I entered. And then you realize, no, it's actually not the problem, it's the system. Because if nobody wants to go through thousands of resumes and we hire people now, I get like 500 applications within 30 minutes. Like I'm not going through 500 applications, like no matter who you are, right? So that's how we started. And that's where the problem was like, how do we help recruiters or help systems to make decisions, which is also personalized on both sides of the table, right? Like candidates feel like, oh, they have not been posted for no unseen reason. And not a lot of people realize this, that candidates, when they are applying for thousands of jobs, they know that out of 1,000, like 95% of the jobs are not a good fit for them. So once they hear it, and not a lot of people take that into consideration, they know that, but they have been taught to play the high volume game of spray and pray, which both sides are doing it, right? So that's why the collaboration piece is so important, is where how can I proactively get to my top 5%, but I still are being human to my rest 95%. So that was the reason we started SenseLove, is because like we need to have an automated matching system to at least take the first level. And then from there, it has evolved from an NLP model to a semantic matching model to a contextual matching, and then to agentic system is where one example I would like to give in agentic is now hiring managers, they will give an example. Oh, I want someone like Jeanette. Like she was super cool at this job. I need somebody like her. Or I don't want frequent poppers. Not
But
Steven.
not Steven.
Really, let's go. Yeah, let's be clear.
Because your client wants to hire somebody who's good, who's competent, who's going to be reliable. And okay, I'm cool
In
with
this
this.
scenario,
I'm totally
Steven,
cool with
you are
this.
giving the instruction saying like, oh, I want.
There we go.
Oh no, I'm the shining
Exactly.
example of the no. Let's move on. Wow. But I'm sorry. Please go ahead with the example.
No, but it can pick up these things like, okay, I want somebody who's not a frequent hopper, right? So a traditional
Yeah.
AI system will not be able to do that because it's looking at keywords, skills, etc. So then you're looking at trade-offs. Somebody who has worked at 1 year at OpenAI is obviously you want to pick them with somebody who has worked at 3 or 5 years at like a normal company, right? So these signals are impossible to pick in high volume. But with an agentic system, it can pick up those contexts because you have given that context around industry, skills, preferences. So you're combining all of that when a screening agent is going and looking and screening candidates on that.
One of the things that intrigues me about not just agentic AI, but AI is in general when it comes to high volume, is the ability for employers to really do some A/B testing. Traditionally, recruiters can think, if I hired Jeanette instead of Steven, I hired the better person, right? Jeanette started, she's been with us for 3 years, she's been highly productive, so clearly Jeanette was a good hire. The problem with that is they don't actually know because they didn't hire me. And so they don't know what I would have been like. In a high volume environment, you can do A/B testing. And have you done any of that with the employers that you work with, where it's like half of the candidates randomly selected went through your system, half of the candidates randomly selected went through their traditional system, and then you look back 3 months later, a year later, whatever, to see which group performed better?
That's a really great question, Stephen. And the A/B testing thing, we already, like, if you look at marketing and sales, we do A/B testing all the time, right? Like, I mean, this literally is the foundation
Yeah.
on how people run marketing and sales. So why not recruitment? So even in recruitment, we do A/B testing where we do take how recruiters have been performing. We actually have data to see like how recruiters' performance was before they implemented our system, what kind of people they were hiring, how much time they were taking. And then they look at our system and then, yes, so we have seen data where we have seen actually increase in retention data also, that people who have been engaged better, who have been considered more human through the process are actually staying well within the company. So that A/B testing we do all the time. Plus we have done A/B testing on how the process in itself is with agentic, because with agentic AI, you can literally set up different logic systems. So For example, you can take two group of candidates and say like, okay, for these candidates, we're going to see like if they're more uh, okay with our assessment test, and we're going to give more weightage to their resume as compared to a different one where we're going to not to care too much on their resume, but we're just going to focus on how they communicate and how they are assessing or engaging with the process. So you can run smaller A/B testing, but overall, in high volume, yeah, we have seen much better performance with agentic AI overall, because you're actually giving back time to recruitment teams to be more human, like to actually think about as collaborators who want to talk to people. So they're able to do more of these things which they actually should be doing. And they love it. Like, so we think about as like the happiness index. So if recruiters are happy, candidates are happy, then automatically you're more invested in the process.
I love that. Well, I'm just looking at the time. I'm gonna like throw one last, like, I feel like easy, simple question that's not too scary and spooky. Um, and I just love this like happiness index, which is great. So if an organization is thinking about, okay, I actually want to start using agentic AI or maybe piloting or in an area, is there like, from what you've seen with like customers and organizations you're talking to, an area or like a type of high volume hiring, like, okay, this is really good to go and try for, this type, right? Because we know there's obviously a variety of like high volume type of roles. Any advice there? Is it type of roles? Is it, any other factors?
So I think type of roles, it's pretty agnostic, but I would look at it from the organization itself, because not every organization is ready to adopt agentic AI. And not a lot of organizations realize that, because they're like, oh, we need to adopt AI. But before you need to adopt AI, there's a lot of background. I wouldn't say a lot of background work, but you need to have processes. You need to know what you need. You don't need to adopt a complete end-to-end agentic system. Maybe you need to first start with the problem. And that's what we have done there for 6, 7 years, is like, where you are stuck, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Maybe it can solve with a simple automation. Maybe it needs agentic AI. Maybe you need an end-to-end agentic AI system. So we have organizations that use an entire end-to-end suite and they're super happy. We have organizations that use part of it and they're super happy, because every organization is at a different starting line. They're not at the same starting line. So that's what I always come back and try to understand it. What you're doing today, what's working, what's not working. Maybe you can just solve most of it through automation. Or when you do that, then you're ready for agentic, right? So that's, I think, a lot of like, I think TA leaders are getting pressurized from the C-suites, like, oh, we need to adopt AI, we need to adopt agentic is the keyword. But the question is, are we ready? And if we are, what does that look like? And that's why like this stat is going around, oh, 90% of the projects fail. Of course it fails, because you cannot put like a turbo engine on like, a Prius. Yeah, you need,
Yeah.
if you try to like bolt on like a turbo engine on a Prius, it's not going to work. So that's the analogy I think I can come up with.
I love that. It's like, yeah, figure out what the problem is and solve that. Like, what is the use case versus just a blanket generic? That I love that. That is great advice. Great advice on our spooky Halloween episode, or almost Halloween episode. Well, Prakar, thank you so much for being
Oh,
on
yeah,
this podcast.
absolutely.
This
This was
was
fun.
awesome. Awesome. Good stuff.
May your trick or treat bag be filled with Reese's peanut butter cups and not those like nasty green apple suckers.
Or as my kids would say, almond joy. They think those are like the worst. Meanwhile, that's like one of my favorite candies because I like weird candy
Oh,
flavors. So
yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Almond Joy,
On
definitely
that
very
note,
spooky.
happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy
Enjoy
Halloween,
the day.
guys. Thank you so
Take
much,
care.
Steven.
Bye.
Thank you.